Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Joffrey Noodle Eggs here today with another Noodle film review. Today we're looking at Italian Giallo classic. If you don't know what a Giallo is a Italian horror genre. Very similar to the slasher movie, but more of a mystery than a slasher. Slashers are out and out, sort of like a stalking kill. You got a killer, and sort of like, and it's like who done it, sort of all the way to the end. Whereas Giallo is kind of like that, but it has more of a mystery feel, more investigation sort of feel to it, and it has a more sexual content sometimes to it as well. Anyway, tonight we're looking at classic Dario Argento film Deep Red. Not looked at many of his films. Just because they're quite long and they are quite slow. And a Giallo is more of a slow burn horror than a slasher. This film sort of starts off really weird with, like, we see like a shadow of someone being killed with a knife by a sort of Christmas tree, which is really strange. And then we cut to a sort of theatre where there's two guys and a woman talking about telepathic powers and telepathy, and there's the woman who believes she's like got this skill of seeing sort of like telepathy, and they're talking about it in this theatre. And while this is going on, in another area there's a jazz musician who's our main character in the film, and he's a pianist. He's a English sort of pianist, and he's sort of like playing sort of jazz in this sort of church area, and he's over there teaching sort of piano and jazz musicians, so that's why he's over there. Anyway, we cut back to this sort of theatre where they're talking about telepathy, and this woman sort of points out this guy in the crowd saying, "Oh, that guy there, you got your hand in your pocket and you're playing with your keys. One's a long key and sort of thing." And he says, "Yeah, right." And he pulls out his keys. So, you know, how do you know this? And then they start asking, "Have you two ever met each other or know each other?" No, not at all. So she's sort of trying to show her telepathy skills to these people. And then she sort of like goes really bizarre, like, sorry my bad impression, but she does this. And then she starts sort of freaking out because she starts picking up on someone else. And she said to one of you in here is a killer, and you've killed and you will kill again. And so she's sort of like pointing this out. And then we sort of get a first person perspective of a guy sort of leaving the theatre. So they're not going to give away who our killer is. So this is all sort of going on. And then after the show, she's sort of like still walking through with one of the guys that work there, and she still senses that someone's there, and you sort of see sort of like in the shadows there's someone sort of watching. But anyway, she goes back to her place where she lives, and she starts hearing all these sort of weird things and weird stuff sort of going on. And she hears while all these sort of strange things going on in her house, and seeing all these sort of strange things, she hears a knock on the door. So she goes to the door to answer it, and when she screams, and then there's like a big hacksaw comes forward and sort of smashes her in the head, and sort of like knocks her to the floor. This sort of like big sort of axe, and then she tries to sort of get away, and she gets stabbed a couple more times with it. So she gets killed at the beginning of the film. So while this is going on, back on the streets of this Italian town, we've got our hero, our musician, pianist, and he's walking through the town towards like this sort of like night sort of diner sort of cafe, and he sees one of his friends or someone he doesn't know who's drunk, but they start having a sort of jibber jabber and chatting to each other. And while this is going on, they both hear a scream and they both stop and have a look to see what's going on, but they can't see anything. Anyway, that they seem to go their own sort of ways, and our musician carries on walking through the street, and he then still hears a sort of scream. He sees this woman up at the window, sort of shouting help, sort of thing. And then behind us, our killer with the axe thing again, and he sort of swings it, and she sort of comes forward and through the window, and she gets killed. And this is the same woman. This is she obviously hadn't been killed yet, but she's so this is sort of like all going on. So he sort of runs up to the house where the woman is, to her apartment, and goes in, and he sort of looks in the mirror, and he sees this sort of, you see this sort of reflection in the mirror, which is really strange, but it's only for a few seconds, and there's all these sort of paintings and pictures on the wall. Anyway, he makes his way to the room, and you see the woman hanging over the window with her neck all cut open because she's been cut on the window. And he lifts her back in the room, and then we cut to the scene where the police are there investigating. And they're sort of like asking him all these questions, if he knows what's he doing in Italy, and he's telling them about being an English sort of musician teacher. And all this is sort of going on. And then our sort of female hero comes in, quite beautiful Italian woman. I think she's been in quite a few of these giallo films. I'm sure she was in Tenebrae or something. But she comes in and she's like a reporter. Anyway, she takes a photo of our musician. And then we catch up with the pair sort of like talking together. And there's some sort of connection going on between them. And sort of like they're in this, and there's some comical sort of moments coming on where it's sort of like they both like each other, but none of them want to sort of like say anything. And we have some sort of funny moments where they're arm wrestling and she beats him. There's a funny moments in the car when he sits in the passenger seat and it sort of breaks down and he's right down here and she's up there, and it's some quite comical moments. But they sort of join up teams to sort of investigate what's been going on. Then there's like another murder takes place, or this woman living out in the countryside in this sort of farm in the same sort of way that this musician knows. Anyway, she gets killed in her bathroom. She sees like this doll sort of hanging up, and she's terrified. She's there alone, and she gets also bumped on the head, and she gets killed gruesomely with boiling water in the bath. She's drowned in boiling water, and she tries to leave like a little message for the condensation on the side of the bath. But the killer opens the window and that all sort of disappears. But that sort of all gets fathomed out throughout the film. This is what I mean. It's more of a mystery and investigation. And we've got our musician and our reporter, and they're doing more investigation to see what's going on, what the connections are, because so he knows this, and he also feels like he's being stalked by someone, because someone outside his flat. So all this sort of stuff's going on, and that's all I'm going to tell you. Are they going to find out who this killer is? Who is this killer? What's his purpose? What is actually happening? You need to watch Deep Red and find out. What do I think of Deep Red? It's a great film. Absolutely awesome. It's definitely one of my favourite Dario Argento films. My favourite is definitely Tenebrae, but this is probably my second favourite of his. I mean, I know a lot of people love Suspiria and all that, but that's not in my top sort of 5. I will do a top 5 Argento films at some point. I'm not going to do a whole 10 because they're all quite similar, but I will do a top 5. And this one would definitely be probably my second favourite. The pluses of this, the transfer is stunning. It's amazing. It's got some great audio options on there. That's another really strange film about this film, is that half of it's spoken in English, another half in Italian. Like they'll be speaking in English and then they'll transfer to Italian in mid-sentence, and so it's kind of strange. But I like that as well. It gives the film more character. It's a great. It's a strange story, but great, and it's quite one of those films that you need to watch to sort of catch on. Oh, that's what's happening, and it's one of those ones that takes a little bit of time to fall into place. The acting's pretty cool. It's quite good acting. The giallo films, I would say, tend to be better acted than the slasher films. That's another good thing that I'd say about the giallo films. And the relationship between these two build up was really cool. It's another plus. The minus that it's not it is a slow burn, and it's not a wall to wall killer like Jason there. It's, you know, a few kills going on, and they are quite gruesome. This was a video nasty, I believe, because of some of the deaths, and that's what I put on the beginning of the video. That warning, there is some sort of gory content, which there was. Not too much, but there's a little bit of gore. Obviously, I had to cut most of the kills out. I couldn't put those in for you because they get quite gory. But yeah, there's not many killings in it, so that could be looked upon as a negative. Because if you like a big kill count, giallo films don't tend to have them. They, like I said, they're more of a story based, a character based. So that's really cool. So I'm going to score Deep Red an awesome watch and give it a 9 out of 10. It's absolutely great film, and I love that cover. It's such a cool cover. Really, really cool. It does have a reversible sleeve. But I like that cover. Really, really cool. Deep Red, 9 out of 10. Any of you guys seen it? If you have, let me know down below what you thought of it. I mean, giallo films, there's hundreds of them. And it is a genre on its own. They tend to get mixed up in the slashers. Like, you will get people saying, my top 10 slashers, and they will put in films like Tenebrae and things like this. But these are not slashers, they're giallo. They're different. They're not slasher films. So that's something, if you're getting into horror, try and work that out. Giallo and slasher, they are similar in a lot of ways, but they're different in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's a great giallo film. Absolutely love it. Guys, till my next video, check out some horror channels for me. Check out Horror Geek, Horror Hands, The Man v Film, RS Designs, Pizzowell, I Am Ice Lord, Sarah of Horror, Cat Watches Horror Movies, Grumpy Andrew's Haunted House, and a shout out to my lad Lemon Lord. Until next time, look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope I'll see you all soon.